What's up guys, Mrsa or Deity, and today's video will be the last in my top 5 series. So we have done a top 5 for every element, but that was mostly 5 stars, especially once we got into the light and dark heroes. But today I'm going to be doing a top 5, but with 3 stars only. Keep in mind this is for PvP, using and mainly RTA, so just know that, like, yes, there's some 3 stars that are going to be good in PvE, and I'll slightly talk about them, but let me know below down what your top 5 star or top 3 stars are going to be. So with 3 stars, we're going to sort by grade in the journal. And going into this, I'm going to be doing Raz and Clury, but I'll show the specially changed versions of them instead whenever I click on the skills. So I'm going to go ahead and select Mrsa. So Mrsa is like a budget Remnant Violet, which is a 5-star unit, but Mrsa automatically has her dodge chance. So a lot of people try to say that she's better than Remnant Violet as a 3-star, but she has speed imprint, which is amazing. You can build her on lifesteal. She's going to survive quite a while, and her skill 3 with soul burn does absolutely insane damage. And then her passive is every time she is missed, she gets speed buff, and then she also gets 1 turn cooldown on her skill 3. So a 10 soul burn skill 3 that can one-shot most units in the game as long as they're not tanks, even some tanks, depending on the situation, especially if you can make it into a little bit of frenzy. It's absolutely amazing. So she also decreases speed on her S1, which isn't too bad. But overall, she is speed scaling damage, so if you do a lifesteal build, preferably you would try to still go at least like 200 to 220 speed on the lifesteal build and have a bit of survivability with an HP defense and then a little bit of attack. And she can completely solo teams just as Remnant Violet can. So she's going to be number 1, plus the 8 speed imprint is absolutely amazing. This is a very... Speed imprints are super important in the game if you're going to be playing speed in any capacity, but she's also an anti-cleave unit because of her dodge chance, as well as you can draft her as a speed imprint and pick 1 speed character at the same time. So you can draft some tanks, Mrsa, some kind of speed contest, and then her, and she can end up winning you a RTA fight. So she is going to go ahead and be number 1. Number 2, I'm going to go ahead, I'll talk about a few of these units real quick. So overall, Butcher Corpse is okay. Arrow Phyllis, that you don't really see them. Basque is alright, but he is locked behind one of the stories if you want to go get him now because he's not in the regular summon pool. Alexa is amazing for Wyvern. Ruzid's another speed imprint, but a little bit harder to use than Mrsa, in all honesty. Sven is actually a fantastic unit. I love Sven. I think he is actually very slept on, but I'm not going to put him in the top 5. Now, Church of Ilios Axe, or Axe God, is pretty decent. Gunther's a weird niche unit you can use in certain teams. Terranor Guard obviously is amazing for a lot of PvE content. Lorena is an Abyss monster, as well as you can use her in Fire Expedition. She's pretty good. Montmorency is really good for PvE content. You can use her in PvP, but she usually just doesn't stack up with the other healers, sadly. Now, the next one I'm going to talk about is Carrot. Most of the units within this are specially changed. Actually, I think all of them except for Mrsa are. Elson, okay. Herado's alright. Nemesis is okay for Abyss. Rima, I still think she's terrible. Kyrus is an Abyss monster. Kyrus is fantastic for that. Celeste is okay for PvP, about the same as Ruzid. If you have God tier gear, you can make a super good Celeste and utilize that well. But going down, there are a lot of 3 stars in this game that are just not worth anything. Hatan is terrible. Godmother's terrible. Requiem Roar is alright. Eaton's actually a decent tank option. Now, Sonia's pretty bad. Inos is pretty bad. Lucy's pointless. Glenn is like, here's better RB counters, and I'm going to talk about that in one of the units. So Chaos Inquisitor, the specially changed Butcher Corpse, is actually pretty good too. Not quite top 5, but he can be fantastic, especially for anti-cleave. Now, we're going to go Falconer Clary. Falconer Clary obviously is going to be on this list. She's probably number 1. She has a ability to turn cycle very quickly with her S1. She can take 5 turns before your opponent even takes 1 sometimes if you get lucky on her skill tree. Abilities proccing, she recovers health for your team, so she's like a pseudo healer. Works pretty well within that. And then her skill 3 gives defense break, provoke, and strip. So having all 3 of those abilities, absolutely amazing. She can be built pretty fast because her skill tree gives her speed, which is nice. And overall, she's good for all PvE. She's always used in high rank PvP. In terms of RTA, and using her for Guild Wars / Arena. Just absolutely broken unit, but most of you guys would know Falconer Clary is good. Next up, we're going to go ahead. Righteous Thief Ruzid is just a better Ruzid, obviously. Axe God is like okay-ish now, but still not very good. Commander Lorena, obviously PvE. monster. Mascot Hazel probably is really good for PvE. Momo PvE. Next up, I'm going to talk about Magic Scholar Doris. So Doris, in the current RTA meta especially, a lot of dark units get picked, especially Arbiter Vildred. If you need a good Arbiter Vildred counter, Doris is it. She also counters any other dark unit really, but she is, once you draft her, she gives so many different buffs. I actually don't have her, but I do lose to her quite often. She blinds on her skill 1, which is amazing. Her skill 2 gives continuous healing and increased defense. Increased defense is absolutely amazing. One of the best things you can possibly give to your team, obviously. And then her skill 3 is it's a dispel, as well as increasing combat readiness by 50%. Amount recovered is proportional to the caster's max HP. And then also, if she gets hit by a dark unit, she's going to heal your team. I believe 2 units on your team, if not your entire, I think it's your entire team actually. Gives a little bit of healing back and reduces that damage. So Doris is an absolutely amazing early game unit if you're looking for a way to counter Arbiter Vildred. And you draft her mostly with tanky units. So you can't make Magical Scholar Doris and draft it with like a cleave comp. You're still going to die. But if you draft her with like a somewhat tanky team with at least an Adamant Aureus holder, like say you use Adventure Raz on Aureus or Adamant, it's absolutely amazing. But Adventure Raz is going ahead and take the number 3 slot. So he has Dispel on his S1 with 75% chance to do so, which cannot be molded. And then his damage scaling is off his HP. It doesn't really do much damage, but his skill 1 is pretty decent, and it also gives himself combat readiness boost when you do that. S2 is, this is why he's so strong, is the skill 2 allows you to attack with your highest attack unit, meaning you can do combos like Raz Landy, build a 260 Adventure Raz, and then use S2 turn 1, boost your Landy, because Landy's S1 boosts your combat readiness, and you can S3 with Landy, boosting your team's combat readiness again. It's absolutely insane. And then the skill 3, like I said earlier with Doris, defense buff is absolutely broken. Gives your team 60% defense increase. That's so much. That's more than an attack buff. That's almost a Gab. The Gab's 70% attack. So you basically just basic increased defense is like equivalent to rocking greater attack buff. So super important skill. He also recovers a bit of his own HP when he uses a skill, but AoE defense buff, and then the immunity from his skill 2. So whenever you do skill 2, you also get immunity on to Raz and the unit you attack with. So it just allows for a lot of like counterplay within your draft. So Raz will always be really good, and he's also great in PvE in most PvE situations. So next up, Researcher Carrot. Researcher Carrot is absolutely broken. So I did my top 5 fire video before Carrot got buffed. She would be in that video, but she's going to have to just settle for this video right now. So her skill 1 is giving speed down and detonates any burns on the opponent, which she also, with her skill 3, gives 2 burns per opponent. And every time she gets hit, she burns the opponent. So as long as your opponent does not have immunity or high effect res, your Carrot is going to have probably some of the highest solo potential out of any unit within the game. So her skill 2 also gives a barrier every time she's hit, as well as burning the target. So if you build her on higher defense, that barrier actually becomes stronger, because barrier is equivalent to HP, and having higher defense makes that barrier sustain more damage. So, and she is a mage, giving her high base defense. So it's always worth building a little bit of bulk on your Carrot. Build her, I mean, just build her how you want. Between 200, usually 200 and I'd say 230 speed, depending on how you're playing her. But overall, she can one-shot almost any unit in the game. If you have very high attack, you can basically just kill Spectre Tenebria. You can apply the burns to Spectre Tenebria where she can't burn you. So Carrot with RB is absolutely crazy, because they don't have a way to counter the RB then, because if they soul burn, they die on Spectre Tenebria. And she just allows, there's a reason she's picked by everybody right now in RTA. But she's also great in any kind of PvP, Guild War, or Arena. So the last unit we are going to talk about today, that was, wait, how many is that? Flurry, Raz, Doris, Carrot, Mrsa. That's actually all 5. That's it. We're done. Okay, but let me know below what you think the top 5 units are. There are a couple that, like I said, are decent, but it's hard to determine which ones I would say are top 5. There are obviously ones that are going to PvE, so know that if you have one unit that you're like, oh, this unit's super good in Abyss, that's not what this video is for. This was talking PvP. But either way, let me know down below what your top 5 are. It's been Mitchell or Deity, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a great day.